What's up, LEGO builders? Welcome back to Coconut Brick Studios. There is no mock dearer to the hearts of the LEGO Star Wars community than the good old clone base. No matter what your skill level or parts collection looks like, a clone base is always an option. But this begs the question, what's wrong with droid bases? Why doesn't anybody build those? After much thought and deep meditation, I think I have an answer. And today, I'm pulling back the curtain on the great droid base problem and showing you how I fixed it. So if you're ready to see droids get some much needed love, don't forget to execute Order 66 on that like button, and let's get building. Your first thought might be to dismiss this video since the answer's obvious. Clones are just more popular, right? Wrong. That might be part of the reason, but there's another issue. One that's showcased perfectly on the planet of Felucia. Here, Anakin, Ahsoka, and the Wolf Pack are closing in on a droid base, and they take a little peep through macros, and what do we see? A large landing craft and a square box. No roof, no defenses. Now, I don't blame the creators of the show. The separatists are renowned for cutting corners and getting away with the bare minimum whenever they can, so it would make sense that they would go with such a bare bones option. But I feel like this lack of creativity and the fact that we rarely even see droid bases in the show is why no one's building them in the community. Who wants to build Fort Legorado for droids? There's Camino, Coruscant, Ordo Plutonia, and so many other awesome Republic bases to fuel our creative juices. But when it comes to droids, their strongholds are non-existent. But that changes today. I'm going to design and build a droid base and show you how they can be fun and interesting mocks to tackle. I don't want to just build a clone base, but for droids. I want to tailor this specifically to them and their tactics and vehicles. With all the cool units and vehicles available, a separatist base can be pretty cool. Normally, I do my build challenges on this single table, but I want to go all out with this droid base and build something truly impressive, so I'm upgrading to the big mock tables. Just ignore the remnants of Magito over here. I'm starting by blanketing some base plates with green brick because even though this is a base challenge, I don't want it to sit on some bland base plates, and a little terrain can make a big difference. And you may be thinking green equals yet another Naboo mock, but I'll resist the temptation.
I don't need it. I don't need it. I definitely don't need it.
I laid out where the base will go with dark tan brick so I can start to gauge how big it'll be and what I can fit inside. If you've watched any of my recent content, you know I've been building a lot of my base walls out of panels set at an angle in between brick supports. But the droid base walls appear to be straighter, and I want to try a new style of wall so this doesn't end up looking like a clone base but with droids inside. So I'm doing a hybrid half brick, half paneled wall, starting out with a brick built foundation and adding 2 layers of slopes to the outside because I don't want these to look too flat and it makes for a stronger foundation. But this is a very part intensive way to build, and I've already basically cleaned out my big bin of slopes, so it's time to deploy the panel technique I've been using. I love this method because I slap a few plates together, put some tile on the front with a few exposed studs, and you can fill up a lot of space with these while using less than 20 pieces per panel. Because the CIS colors are blue and gray, I wanted to add some dark blue designs to the front panels for some much needed color contrast. Too bad there aren't any CIS logo tiles like the Republic ones we have. The inside walls will be brick as well, but I know I want to add certain things into the walls later, so I'm adding a few space brackets for a future droid barracks. Well, if you could call it that. I planned on placing the panels at the front of the wall, but this creates an ugly lip where the brick and plate meet, and I want the transition to be smooth, so I'm tiling off the tops of the slopes on the front and scooting the panels back 1 stud so they sit on the slopes. Using these special brackets, I was able to place the panels in just the right spot so everything blends together perfectly. Let me know in the comments what you think of these hybrid walls. The doorway is going to be brick built so it looks more solid and adds some variation to the shape of the base. And to cover up its nakedness, I'm adding some panels and pipes to the front. Rebling is the best. Have a build that doesn't look good? Bam! Add some pipes, vents, and printed tiles, and then you have an entirely new looking build. Some of you may be watching this and feel like you're having deja vu since this entrance looks a little familiar. But I liked what I built last week and thought the general concept would work here too. Now we get to the first big variation in design I'm doing. For some reason, the Seps went with a drawbridge for their base door. And now I could be wrong, but a drawbridge is really only useful when spanning a moat of some kind, and since I'm not adding a crocodile-infested river surrounding my base, I think I'll just go with a simple laser door, which we've seen before in the Clone Wars. I built an archway in the middle of the door and added some inverted slopes to the underside, and even got a little creative and added some reverse cheese slopes using half pegs to finish out the shape. The actual door is just going to be trans light blue bricks, which I can add whenever. This is what I call the lazy man's door, since I don't actually have to build anything and I can just say it's open right now. I made sure to add some brick on the inside of the wall so the droids don't have those ugly plate undersides staring at them while they're trying to work. Next, in go some supports for future gun turrets, and there's only one thing left to do for the walls. Initially, I was just going to leave the tops alone, but after looking at them, I didn't like how sloppy and unfinished they were. So I begrudgingly hunted down a bunch of 2x2 tile slopes and capped off the top, which was a good move. Those slopes completed the top of the wall and helped the panel and brick blend together even more. The corners were a little tricky, but I made do with some cheese slopes. I can already tell this is going to be a top tier base. Any droids going from the cardboard box of a base they're used to this are going to feel like $1,000,000 until they get punched or shot into oblivion as soon as they leave. I have a sweet droid base shell, and now it's time to go inside and dive into the fun builds. I want to have a command tower at the back of the base, since typically the droids will just have one of these mobile command station things, which I don't really like. I want my computers and leaders to have a little more protection and privacy. That way when Newt Gunray orders a droid garrison into a battle they can't possibly win, the entire base doesn't have to hear. I found this tower design built by the very talented Tim Goddard 928 on Instagram. I don't fully know how he built it, but it looks like 4 panels with stacks of macaroni bricks in the corners. The reason I'm so enamored with it is because not only are each of the walls angled, but they all slope inward as well with rounded corners, creating a really unique shape I don't know if I've ever seen in a Lego build before. After much practice, I came up with a very inferior design, but it still manages to capture the same shape, and now I can finally put it into an actual mock, work out the kinks, and improve my design. I put some trans-clear bricks behind the openings to create windows, and stacked up some macaroni bricks, which you guys know I'm always happy to be able to use again. To get the right panel angle, I stuck some hinge bricks to the bottom of my panels and placed them at the back of the mock. So far, things are fitting together well, but as is the nature with new techniques, there are some issues. The panels are raised up off the ground, creating a big gap, and I still need to figure out how to build an interior inside a shape like this without exposing the backside of the panels. For now, I'm just going to build a couple of square rooms and showcase the inside only from certain angles, but let me know in the comments what you think of this tower design. The upper floor is of course going to have those computers and screens, but I'm keeping the bottom floor a secret until the big reveal later on. I built a roof with the necessary satellites and antenna, but because of the angle, it can't connect to any of the walls, so I have to very delicately place it on top and hope everything holds together. For some reason, the Seps went with a disco dance floor pattern for the base, and honestly, I don't really see an issue with this. It'll look cooler than a solid color, and now the droids have somewhere to bust out some moves and celebrate when they win another pointless victory in Palpatine's war. I did mess up in the middle, and the dark bluish gray strip on one side is way thicker than the other one, which had my OCD acting up like Kylo Ren when he's remodeling an elevator. For the barracks, I'm placing 3 pod doors into the wall to create storage tubes similar to what I did in the droid base underneath Magito, and next to them is a computer for operating the pods and activating the droids inside. You can't send droids into battle empty-handed, so there are racks of weapons at one end. Not everyone in the base is a droid, so I'm building a little break room area where people can sit back and enjoy some blue milk or green milk if you're a freak and a snack. I'm building this platform to be mobile, so it's pretty low-key and has 4 foldable legs for transporting, or if we want to get really creative here, a mini jet leg so this can fly around like a giant hoverboard. I'm putting this in the front corner with a pavilion for shade, which just made me realize, what do separatist forces do when deployed on a cold planet and they can't really use one of these convertible bases without freezing everything? The snack stand is in, and now even during the heat of battle, refreshments and shade are available. The last section to add is a motor pool or maintenance area. Speaking of which, I really need to invest like 80 cents into buying some more Lego tools, since you can only fix so much with an oil can. This base just keeps getting better and better, but with all of its features, it's still very much undefended, so let's beef up the walls. I want to add some catwalks running along the inside. I feel like this is a better option to just having the droids patrol the top of the wall, since it creates a lower profile, which makes the guards harder to snipe and they can duck behind it if need be. I also had to add some guardrails, since we don't want this base getting shut down due to safety violations or any workplace accidents. One problem with the open-topped bases is enemies scaling the walls via grappling hooks like we see during the Battle of Felucia. I built electric beams, basically lightsabers, running across the wall tops. That way if any ropes, cords, or really long arms get tossed up, they'll get sliced in half and fall back down. A couple of cannons at the front will protect the door and destroy any incoming enemy ships, unless of course any named characters are on board. Alright. The finish line is in sight. I just need to add the finishing touches, like a bunch of crates, which actually have a purpose this time, in covering up the command tower floor gap, and of course the minifigs. Lots of droids going about doing their thing. And you guys know me, I'll take any chance I can get to add a little plant life and terrain detailing. Popping up faster than Palpatine can say "I love democracy," the separatist base has been deployed, foreshadowing an imminent droid invasion. The easy-to-assemble prefabbed walls are well defended and give the lookouts a great view of the surrounding area. The main gate is guarded by large gun turrets, and the wide entrance allows patrols and larger vehicles to exit and go pacify the locals, who probably struck some kind of protection deal with Dooku. Near the front is a repair bay for fixing damaged vehicles, although my guess is the penny-pinching Seppi leaders are more inclined to just replace broken vehicles and instead of repairing them. On the other side is the barracks, and lucky for droids, they don't need to eat, exercise, and relax like humans do, so they're deactivated and stored in these pods until needed. Behind that is a little break area for the Nemoidian gunners who can't really be stored in pods. Overlooking everything is the command tower with one floor in charge of monitoring the base and surrounding area via radar, and the other is for Wat Tambor to manage his finances. Bruh. To the left of the tower is a spot for smaller ships to land and drop off cargo or passengers, who in this case are a couple of Gungan prisoners. Alright, you got me, this is another Naboo mock.
I knew it.
Outside, Boss and Jar Jar, who I doubt was his first choice, scout out the base to try and find any weak points, but I've done my job well, and sneaking into this base will be no easy task. Very rarely does a mock exceed my expectations, but this droid base is just beautiful. It's so clean and simple, yet looks very detailed at the same time. I've been wanting to test out the command tower build for a while, and the gap at the bottom is covered up real nice, but I still have some kinks to work out with the roof. I think this challenge was a success. This build fixes most of the issues I brought up and improves the classic droid base quite a bit. I hope my first foray into droid bases was an entertaining watch, because I have more droid base content in the works and want to explore some non-traditional looking bases next. But that wraps up this video. Don't forget to let me know what you think of my base in the comments, and I'll catch you next time, but until then, happy building.